Hello and welcome on board. You're watching Eye on Africa and I'm Clarisse Fortuné. Our top stories. It's now time to Kenya to mourn the dead after days of violence against tax hikes. Some are calling for fresh protests and for President Ruto to resign despite his U-turn on the financial bill. South African Parliament will open on July 18th as President Ramaphosa remains locked in negotiations between the ANC and the Democratic Alliance over cabinet positions. Niger still refuses to reopen its border with Benin, and markets have come to a standstill as merchants can no longer trade. In Kenya, families mourn the loss of their loved ones after this week's violent protest against tax hikes. At least 23 people were killed in clashes with police. Many protesters remain in critical condition. Although President William Ruto withdrew his controversial finance bill, calls for change in the country continue. Kathleen Kelly has more.
At a mosque in Nairobi, the Kamu family are in mourning, remembering 19-year-old Ibrahim shot dead during Tuesday's anti-tax protests. With hundreds injured, questions remain over the military's involvement in quelling the protests. Mourners paid their respects to Ibrahim through the streets of Nairobi, a city that has slowly started to reopen after a turbulent few days. On Tuesday, the violent protests reached a boiling point and brought the city's central business district to a standstill. This business owner lost $10,000 in stock after his shop was set ablaze.
It's hard where to begin. I have a family, a wife, a small child and school-aged children. Since that day I've not eaten. You see how I am right now. I don't know where to start.
In response to the violence, President Ruto walked back the controversial finance bill, but analysts say it's too little, too late.
So the continued discontent means that withdrawing the finance bill 2024 does not really address the long laundry list that Kenyans and the young people feel the government needs to work on. If I give a second example, is the kind of opulence that we see with the politicians, carrying lots of money, putting on expensive, garments, and calling upon Kenyans to take austerity measures.
The streets appear quieter this Friday, but online, younger Kenyans call for the resignation of President Ruto. As one hashtag reads, Ruto must go.
It's now been nearly a month since South Africa's governing ANC lost its majority for the first time. Tense negotiations between the ANC and the Democratic Alliance led to delays in launching a coalition government. The government of national unity may have ended before it begins, and meanwhile, President Ramaphosa announced Parliament will open for its next term on July 18th. Anne Wenzel is in Cape Town and she's with us now. Welcome, Anne. So the first question for you, how did it come to this?
So basically, after the ANC failed to secure the majority on the 29th of May, they said that the voter had said that we need really a government of national unity because, it had voted for so many different parties that it meant the voters wanted political parties to work together. The DA, the opposition at the time, was then the first to start talks with the ANC. The IFP then followed, and so that was how the government of national unity got started with those three parties. The DA, of course, being the bigger party after the ANC with 40% of the vote and the DA with just over 20. So what happened then is that even though on the 14th of June we had our first session of Parliament constituting the new Parliament and the swearing in of MPs, the ANC, the ANC and DA was still in talks to decide who got kind of what and which ministerial posts, because of course this is part of the negotiations, is who gets which ministerial posts. And the ANC and the DA now, 2 weeks later, are still in talks over these ministerial posts, despite the fact that the DA had earlier said that, look, because they have so many seats, 58, that proportionally they should get more than the 6 ministerial posts that the ANC is offering, and for deputy ministerial posts, the ANC is refusing to move, and things are getting sour.
So, Anne, do we know what's going to happen next?
So it's highly unlikely that the ANC will back down. the ANC, they're still the party with the most votes, and they're still, feeling that the DA is not in a position to make demands. The DA, of course, is feeling that they are the second biggest party in the GNU, so they feel that they do have some power. And so this is what is happening, because they, of course, backed President Cyril Ramaphosa, to be president when they voted on the 14th. So they want a little bit of quid pro quo, but one of the issues that they're sticking around is they want to have certain say in the economic cluster. So it's basically falling down around the Ministry of the Department of Trade and Industry, because this is what the DA wanted, and it was on the table at some point, and now it's not, with the DA leader John Steenhuisen also saying that had that stayed on the table, then they would have said, okay, that's fine, we'll take the 6 ministries and the 4 deputy posts, because we want to have some part of saying or growing the country. And if we do not have any of these ministerial posts in that strong economic cluster, then we're basically being kind of sidelined. So this is where it's at. The ANC is not moving. The DA is quite unhappy. And a lot of analysts are saying, look, the DA and the ANC both need to realize that they're in a new relationship. They are used to being on opposite sides of the table, but now they are basically in a relationship where they need to talk, they need to negotiate, they need to compromise. So we're waiting to see what's going to happen, because the president is shortly expected to announce the new cabinet, and then we'll know where the ministries fall, and the whole country is waiting.
Yes, and we will be waiting as well. And I know, Anne, thank you very much. I know you will be waiting and covering the situation for me. Thank you very much. Now, we continue our series on Niger. Despite ECOWAS partially lifting sanctions on the country following the military coup, the country still refuses to reopen the border with Benin. As a result, the second largest market in Benin, Malanville, has come to a standstill. Merchants can no longer trade. Emmanuel Soji tells the story.
Every Friday morning, the second largest market in Benin is supposed to be bustling with merchants from Niger, Nigeria, Togo, and Burkina Faso. But the closure of Niger's border has left this commercial hub on the brink of collapse. The economic impact is devastating, a first for local merchant Kemat Oussini.
Only foreigners come to buy, but now there's nobody left. Nobody comes in, nobody goes out. Who will buy? We're begging the two presidents. They just need to talk to each other.
Many people who rely on the market are struggling to make ends meet, like Moussa Aboubakar, who used to import cereals from Niger but lost his job.
I have a whole family to feed here in Malanville, and I have 3 wives. I'm looking for a solution. If things don't change around here, I will have to join my friends and leave Malanville.
To continue selling popular products like the local beans, some wholesalers are taking a detour through Nigeria. But this comes with a hefty price tag. Rare products and high transportation costs double prices by the time they arrive.
Today you need double or even triple the amount to be able to stock up here at the market in Malanville. Before the closure, we used to sell a bag of beans for 40,000 francs, and people would say it was expensive. Today a bag of beans costs 75,000.
The economic crisis in Malanville is affecting everyone. Shipping employees who rely on the international route between Cotonou and Niamey are now out of work.
If the border is closed, what are we supposed to do? We're living in a total nightmare. There's nothing we can do.
Even the youth isn't immune to the crisis. Those who used to earn small wages around the market are now struggling. Ousmane Hamidou, his buying power took a huge hit, down by 90% since the border river closed.
I can wash 5 to 10 motorcycles for 250 CFA each. It's good. It's better than stealing.
According to local government, tax collection has become increasingly difficult. As a result, the city's budget has dropped by 50%.
And this border closure shows the weakness of the continent's intra-continental trade. The African Union had, in 2019, initiated the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, and it was expected to merge the continent's 55 economies into a single competitive mega market of more than 1 billion people and making it one of the biggest free trade areas in the world. Justice Baitu is in Accra and explains.
The African Continental Free Trade Agreement has now been ratified by a majority of the continent countries. Here in Ghana, dozens of businesses are already shipping goods and services from across the borders of the country. For the country's businesses that are operating under the protocol, one of the biggest wins is the ability to be able to raise credit for trade from within the continent and not have to rely on Western banks.
In order to trade, Africa spends about 5 billion on transaction costs. If I was importing something from Togo, which is just next door, and I have to issue a letter of credit, that letter of credit will probably have to go through a Western bank, either France, Europe somewhere, or the US. And they charge for it.
With over 50 economies operating different currencies, businesses on the continent would now overcome the very difficult challenge of buying and selling across borders.
The Afri-Exim Bank, as part of the preparation for this implementation, launched the PAPS, Pan-African Payment and Settlement Systems, as a payment platform. This is a digital platform that would allow traders to trade commercially using their own currencies, so that if I was exporting something to Kenya, the Kenyan buyer would pay to his bankers in Kenya, the bankers would transmit to my account in Ghana, he pays Kenyan shillings, I receive my Ghanaian cedi.
According to a recent UN report, the ACTA could help the continent reach 27 trillion euros of trade by 2050.
Let's end this edition with a bit of music. And Morocco seems to be the place to be for that, with the Ganawa Festival in the city of Essaouira. The Ganawa and World Music Festival celebrates its 25th edition.
Many young people are increasingly interested in the Gnawa festival. I tell them that this heritage must be preserved. They must know that being a master is not just about wearing the traditional costume. It's many things, including good conduct, good behavior with people, and good behavior on stage.
Beautiful pictures. Thank you for watching Eye on Africa.